Let me just tell you something real. You're not broken. But the way you've been taught to think about money is asterisk you've been chasing, trying, fighting, and still every month feels the same. Still feels like you're drowning, like something is missing. And you can't put your finger on it. To tell yourself to work harder. You tell yourself to stay strong. You stay up late and push through the fear. But deep down there's this quiet question you've been trying to ignore. Why does it feel like I'm doing everything right and still getting nowhere? That question, that feeling, is the beginning of truth, because the truth is you're not stuck because of bad luck or because someone else is smarter or because you were born in the wrong place. You're stuck because no one ever told you the rule. The one rule that decides everything. It's not written on any wall. No, one says it out loud, but every person you look up to. Every person who seems to move through life like they know something you don't. They've already figured it out. And you haven't, not yet. That's why things keep slipping, why nothing sticks. Why you always feel like you're almost there, but never arrive. It's not your fault, but it will be if you keep pretending you don't feel it, that pull in your chest. That voice in your head telling you there's something deeper, something bigger, something just out of reach, and that something is this rule, a mental shift, so sharp it cuts through all the noise. So strong it changes how you see the world, and so rare almost no one ever talks about it. But I'm going to talk about it right now, right here, because once I say it, you'll never be able to unhear it. And once you understand it, you'll never be able to go back to the way things were. So the choice is yours. You can walk away. Tell yourself you already know what you're doing, or you can sit still, breathe deep, and listen, because this rule, this one invisible rule, is the difference between being broke forever and finally becoming free. Ready? Then let's begin. Let me be straight with you. The reason you are broke is not what you think it is. It's not the economy. It's not your job. It's not where you come from or what school you went to. It's you, the way you think. The way you've been trained to think since the beginning. I'm not saying that to blame you. I'm saying that to wake you up, because the moment you take responsibility for it, you also take the power to change it. See, most people are walking through life with a limit they don't even see. They think they're aiming for more, but really, they've built a mental ceiling that tells them what's normal, what's possible, what they're allowed to have. They get just enough to survive, and their mind tells them that's all they can handle. So even if money shows up, it disappears, it slips through their hands like water, because deep down, they never raised their standard. And you right now, you might not even realize it, but your life is matching what you expect from yourself, not what you hope for. What you expect. If you expect to live check to check, you will. If you expect to always be trying and never winning, you will. If you expect to never break out of this pattern, you won't. It's not a curse, it's a pattern. And patterns are written by belief, and belief is the one thing no one ever taught you how to master. But let me tell you what the wealthy do. They don't chase money. They don't beg for it. They don't wake up hoping something good happens. They walk like they already own it. They move like money answers to them. They expect it, they plan for it, they build for it, because their standard says, I don't live broke. And when your standard changes, everything else follows. Your habits shift, your confidence grows, your decisions get sharper, and the world starts responding differently. But it doesn't start with money, it starts with you, with the moment you look at yourself and say, I'm done accepting this version of me. That's the moment the ceiling cracks. That's the moment you stop being a victim and start becoming dangerous. So let me ask you, what have you been tolerating? What have you been calling normal that is actually killing your future? What story have you been repeating in your head that keeps you small? Because if you don't change that, no money in the world will ever stay in your life. You'll spend it, lose it, run from it, or sabotage it. But if you change that even just a little, the door opens. So ask yourself right now, what do I really believe I deserved? And is that belief helping me build a future or keeping me trapped in the past? Once you answer that, we can begin to rewrite everything. The truth is, you've been trained to feel powerless. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you really believed you were in control of your life? Not just said it out loud, I mean felt it in your bones. Felt like every move you made actually mattered, because most people don't feel that. They wake up, they go through the same routines, they hope for something better, but underneath it all, there's a quiet belief that life is happening to them. Not for them, and definitely not because of them. They've been trained to think like victims, and maybe you have too. It's not your fault, it starts early. You hear people say, life is hard. You hear them say, money doesn't grow on trees. You hear them say that rich people are greedy and success is rare, and you soak it all in. You carry it until it becomes part of how you see yourself, so you stop asking for more. You stop reaching higher. You settle, because somewhere inside, you believe the game is rigged and you are just trying to survive it. But I am here to tell you that the game is only rigged if you keep playing it their way. And I want to say this clearly, no one is coming to save you. No one is going to walk into your life and fix it. No one is going to knock on your door and offer you the life you dream about. It has to be you. You have to decide right now that you're done being the victim, that you're done living like your hands are tied, because they're not. You've just been convinced they are. Every time you say, I can't, every time you say, I'll never afford that, every time you say, it's just the way it is, you're giving your power away. And the more you do it, the more broke you feel, not just in your bank account, but in your soul. Because here's the hard truth, you cannot build wealth with a powerless mind. You cannot rise while thinking you're stuck. You cannot create anything new while clinging to the story that you have no choice and deep down. You know that you feel. I too have had moments, small ones, where you saw what you're capable of, where you felt fire inside you, but you buried it under fear. You covered it with doubt. You told yourself, maybe someday, but someday never comes. Until you make it today's. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to call yourself out. Catch the thoughts that make you feel small. Catch the words you say that give your power away and replace them not with lies, but with truth. You are not powerless. You never were, but as long as you think you are, you will live like you are, and nothing will change. This is where you take it back. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Because when you stop thinking like a victim, you stop living like one, and that's when everything starts to shift. You keep speaking the struggle into existence. Listen to me. The words coming out of your mouth are building your life, and you don't even realize that most people talk like they're broke, like they're powerless, like nothing ever works for them. They say things like, I can't afford that, that's too expensive, I'm just trying to make it to the end of the month. Money always disappears on me, I'm not lucky like the man. They think it's harmless, just being honest. Just being real, but that kind of language is not honesty. It's a script, a broken loop, a mindset that's been passed down like a curse. Every time you say those words, you are giving more energy to the version of your life you are trying to escape. Words are not just sounds, they are signals, instructions, blueprints that your mind listens to, and when you speak like a broke person, your mind finds ways to keep you broke. That's why you have to catch it, you have to get ruthless with yourself. Start paying attention to what you say out loud and what you whisper in your own head, because your words are not harmless, they are habits, and habits become identity, and identity becomes reality. The wealthy, they speak differently, not because they have money, but because they built a mindset that would attract it. They say, I'll figure it out. Money flows to me through service and value. Every dollar I earn is a tool to build freedom. I'm building something great, even if it's slow right now. They speak with power even before the money shows up. And that's why the money shows up. It's not magic, it's alignment. You cannot live a rich life with a poor voice. You cannot expect abundance while speaking lack every day. And you cannot expect growth while feeding your mind with limitations. So I want you to think about this. What would happen if you changed the way you spoke for just 1 week? What if you stopped saying, I can't, and started saying, I'm learning? What if you stopped saying, I'm broke, and started saying, I'm building? What if you stopped waiting for things to change and started declaring them? You don't have to fake it, you just have to stop feeding the problem with your own voice, because your words create direction. And if your words are always about fear, struggle, lack, and limitation, then that is the direction your life will keep going. But if you shift that even slightly, you start pulling yourself out of the trap. You start calling in different energy, different people, different ideas, different results. It starts with how you speak, because what you say becomes what you live. You are trapped in the beliefs of everyone around you. Let me tell you something you may not want to hear. You never chose your beliefs. You inherited them. You picked them up from your parents, from teachers, from friends who had no idea what they were doing, from people who never built wealth but spoke like they knew everything about money. You were born into a mindset that was already broken. You were taught rules that do not serve you. You were handed a script that was never meant to take you anywhere great. And now, every day, you live in a world shaped by those beliefs. They told you that money is hard to get, that rich people are selfish, that success takes luck or connections or some kind of magic. You do not have they told you to be realistic, to play it safe, to just be grateful for what you have. And you believe them not because they were right, but because they were loud, because they repeated it over and over until it became your truth. And now you wonder why you feel stuck, why every time you try to dream bigger you pull yourself back, why you sabotage your own progress, why you can't shake the feeling that you're not meant for more. It's because you are trapped in a mental box that was never yours to begin with. But here's what they never told you. You can leave. You can walk out of that mental prison anytime you choose, but you have to stop asking for permission. You have to stop surrounding yourself with people who only know struggle, who only talk about problems, who think it's normal to hate Mondays and wait for Fridays and spend money they don't have to impress people they don't even like. You have to get around winners, people who are building, who are dreaming, who are uncomfortable staying the same. And if you can't find them yet, then become one. Start acting like the person you want to be surrounded by, because your environment is not just where you live, it's what you allow, it's who you listen to, it's what you repeat, it's what you repeat, it's what you tolerate. And if your environment is filled with fear, with doubt, with excuses and complaints, then it is no surprise that your life feels like it's going nowhere. But when you shift it, when you raise the standard, when you stop playing small just to make others comfortable, something changes inside you. You stop waiting, you stop begging, you stop looking for someone to save you. You become the one who breaks the cycle, the one who builds a new legacy, the one who makes wealth normal. The one who doesn't just talk about success, but lives it. That version of you, it already exists, but you will never become it while you keep feeding the noise around you. You have to step out, even if you have to do it alone at first, because freedom is not given, it is claimed. And you cannot claim it while living in someone else's mental couture. Life won't change until you do this one thing you keep waiting for. The right time, you keep telling yourself you need more motivation. You keep watching videos, reading books, planning, thinking, wondering, wishing, but your life is not going to change until you do this one thing. Act not someday, not next week, now, because here is what I've learned about people. Most of them already know what they need to do, they just don't do it. They wait for the perfect conditions, the green light, the magical moment when fear disappears and clarity appears, but that moment never comes. You think the wealthy had it all figured out. You think they were fearless. You think they had some kind of Mappino. They moved before they were ready. They jumped while their knees were shaking. They invested when it felt risky. They stepped out when everyone told them to stay patan. That's the difference. While the majority was thinking they were doing while the world was waiting. They were building. They didn't have time to argue with their doubts. They didn't have time to explain themselves. Too small-minded people. They didn't have time to wait for confidence. They built confidence by doing the thing scared. Let me ask you, how many times have you talked yourself out of something that could have changed your life? How many moments did you hesitate just long enough to let the opportunity slip away? You thought you were playing it safe, but the truth is, you were playing it small. You weren't protecting yourself, you were paralyzing yourself. And until you break that habit, until you become the kind of person who moves, who acts, who decides, you will stay in the same place. You don't need another plan, you need movement, you need momentum. You need to teach your brain that you are not a thinker, you are a doer, because when you act even imperfectly, you create feedback, you create results, you create power, and that power becomes a habit. You stop being the person who waits and start becoming the person who wins that shift. That's when life changes, not when you know more, not when you feel ready, but when you prove to yourself that fear will not control your next move. So whatever it is, start with what you have. Start where you are. Start messy if you have to, but start, because the distance between where you are and where you want to be isn't made of miles. It's made of decisions you're losing because you keep breaking this invisible rule. Let me tell you something that most people never figure out. There is a rule that governs every person who wins, every person who rises from nothing, every person who creates wealth when they had none. And this rule is not written in books, it's not taught in schools, it's not even said out loud, but it's real and it's brutal. The rule is this: you must keep your word to yourself. It's simple, but most people never do it. They make a promise in the mirror, then they break it before the sun even rises. They say they'll start today, then they negotiate with themselves by breakfast. And every time they do that, they weaken the muscle that creates success. Self-trust. You cannot build wealth, you cannot build a new life if you keep breaking your own word. Every time you say, I'll wake up early, I'll go to the gym, I'll work on that side hustle, and then you don't. You train your brain to believe you're not serious. You think it's no big deal, just a skipped workout, just a delayed goal, just one more cheat day, but that's not what your subconscious hears. It hears we don't do what we say, and the more you let yourself off the hook, the more powerless you become. That's why people can read 10 self-help books, watch hundreds of motivational videos, and still feel stuck, because the words don't mean anything if your actions are a lie. You cannot lie to yourself and expect to win. You cannot keep cheating on your future and expect it to show up. The people who win, they act like what they say matters. They treat their word as law, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching, because here's the real test. Can you follow through when there's no applause, no recognition, no pressure? Can you become the kind of person who honors their own commitments without needing an audience, without needing motivation? How trust is built. That's how identity changes. That's how success starts. You do what you said you'd do every single time. Your brain knows this is who we are now, and once that happens, nothing can stop you. You'll move differently, you'll speak differently, you'll start attracting opportunities, because the world respects those who respect themselves. And when you keep your word to yourself, you become unstoppable, because now your mind knows when you say something, it's done. The invisible rule, that's the code most people never follow, and it's the reason they stay broke, no matter how smart they are, no matter how hard they try. So from now on, no more half promises, no more empty goals. If you say it, do it, because that's the beginning of everything you want. The same loop keeps you broke, and you don't even notice. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment where you felt like you were about to break through, like things were finally clicking, you were on track, on fire, and then out of nowhere, you fell back? Not because you weren't smart, not because you weren't working hard, but because something pulled you back into the same routine, the same habits, the same thoughts, the same life. It's like you're stuck in a loop, and no matter how hard you push, you always come back to the same point. That's not an accident. That's your subconscious running the show. Most people don't realize this, but your life is a reflection of your inner program, and unless you change the program, the results will repeat again and again and again. You could earn more, save more, start a business, change your job, move to a new city, but if your identity still screams, I'm broke, I'm not good enough, I always fail, then your actions will quietly bend to match it. Self-sabotage. You'll delay decisions, you'll waste time, you'll choose comfort over growth, and you won't even know why. Because here's the truth, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity. That's why most people who win the lottery go broke. That's why people who lose weight often gain. it all back because the external changed, but the internal never did. They still saw themselves as poor, as stuck as not worthy, and so life adjusts back to match the self-image. This is what I call the loop of the mind, and it doesn't break by accident. It breaks when you finally wake up and ask, what story am I telling myself every day? Because if that story sounds like this is just who I am, I've always struggled, it's too late, I can't do what they do, then you've already lost before you even begin. So, how do you break the loop? You challenge the story. You start catching the thoughts that sneak in when you're tired, when you're uncertain, when you're afraid. And instead of listening, you replace them. You tell a new story, one that says, I am capable, I am meant for more. I create my future. At first, it won't feel real. Your brain will reject it because the old loop is familiar, it's safe. But if you keep showing up, if you keep speaking the new belief, acting like it's already true, living like the future you is already here, then something starts to shift. Your actions align, your standards rise, your momentum builds, and eventually you look around and realize the loop is gone. You've stepped into a new one, the one you chose. That's how the shift happens. Not in a single moment, but in daily decisions to break the old and build the new. So, if you feel like you're stuck, if life keeps repeating, it's not because you're cursed or unlucky or broken, it's because the loop you're in hasn't been challenged yet. And once you do, everything changes. Are you ready for section 8? Because now we go deep into the habit that separates the rich from the poor, a habit so subtle, most never notice it, but it makes all the difference in the world. This one habit makes or breaks millionaires. Now, listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you is something that separates the ones who rise from the ones who never make it out. And it's not what most people think. It's not about waking up early or reading books or grinding harder than everyone else. All of that can help, sure, but it won't save you if you don't master this one habit. Habit of acting in spite of emotion. That's it right there. Read it again, because that's the habit the 1% use every single day. You think success is about doing what you love, when you feel like it, when the time is right, when everything is aligned. But the truth, the brutal truth, is that success is built by those who act even when they don't feel like it, because your feelings are liars. They tell you to stay safe, stay home, stay in your comfort zone. They whisper things like, just wait a little longer, start next week, you're tired, you've done enough. But every time you listen, you push your dreams further away. The rich, the powerful, the creators, they feel fear too, they feel doubt too, but they move anyway. That's the difference. Do you think every millionaire felt like working every day? Do you think they always had clarity? Do you think they never felt overwhelmed or confused? Of course they did, but they acted anyway because they understood something most people missed, is freedom. Let that sink in. Discipline is what allows you to build a life that's not controlled by your feelings, but controlled by your vision. When you act in spite of fear, in spite of laziness, in spite of doubt, you train your mind to obey your purpose, not your mood. And when that shift happens, you become unstoppable. This is what the average person never learns. They keep waiting to feel ready, to feel confident, to feel inspired, but those feelings come after the action, not before. So you want to change your life, you want to stop being broke, you want to rewrite your future, then stop waiting, wake up and act. Even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable, the pain of growth is temporary. The pain of regret lasts forever. Have two choices: live life based on your feelings or based on your decisions. One keeps you stuck, the other sets you free. And the ones who make it, the ones who build wealth, they choose every day to act regardless of how they feel. That's the habit. That's the rule. That's the key. Now, are you ready to discover the mental shift that makes wealth automatic? Because section 9 will show you how to program your mind to attract opportunities without even chasing them. You've been given the truth. Now the choice is yours. Stay comfortable and broke, or get uncomfortable and unstoppable. But remember, no one is coming to save you. Only you can build the life you dream about.